Okay, so the first one that is a really simple but really useful one is the use of a Padlet. So for anyone that's not familiar with a Padlet, it's basically an online website where you can make kind of a copybook, and there's various different columns in the Padlet, and you can have 5, you can have 500, and you scroll along sideways. So you can label all the different headings, and then you or the students can copy and paste a link from a video, from an article, from a website, and it comes up kind of as an infographic and a picture. So what we've done is we've labelled, we have maybe 20 at the moment, so we might have components of fitness, role of the coach, role of the official, drugs and sport, psychology, nutrition, anything to do with sponsorship, technology in sport. And as we find articles or as things come up in the news or in the sporting world, we take maybe just 5-10 minutes on a Monday and we copy and paste in anything that's happened over the weekend, and we copy and paste the link in. Why it's useful is, number one, it helps form a discussion on what's going on in the sporting world outside the classroom, and it helps us to link what we have on our learning outcomes to what's going on that's been covered in the media, that's on the news, things that are maybe trending at the moment. But it also helps the weaker students who, when we come to talking about maybe drugs and sport or nutrition, they may not have examples that they can use when they're writing. So it's a nice little bank of resources or theory, I suppose, that we can go back to. And for the weaker students, it's a bank that's always there for them. And for maybe the stronger students, they might be able to look at a different story that they hadn't seen. And it's nice way, we have second class on one day together. So it's nice to kind of spend 5-10 minutes talking about, well, did anything happen over the weekend? What happened? Can we link it to what we have in our learning outcomes in front of us? Sometimes I think we can fall victim to thinking that we have to be active in the whole while teaching Leaving Cert PE all the time. And just in our school, it's not feasible. We have almost 1,000 students for us to have the whole to ourselves every time that we have a Leaving Cert PE class. So I've tried to kind of shift my mindset, thinking that practical can be, yes, in the hall, and that would be brilliant, but also practical in the class as well, like active learning. So a really, really simple one, methods of training. So you might have different groups set up, so groups of 4, they might have one envelope each, and in that envelope they have cut up pieces of paper, and on that you might have like the intensity used for that method, the duration that it may be best suited to, what components of fitness it might best suit, what components of fitness it may not be used with. You may have a description of that method itself and then a definition to go with it. And you might give students time to open up the envelope, look at what they have, pair them up. So what's my intensity, where are my numbers, what's my duration, what components of fitness, if there's 4 components of fitness in that envelope, what 2 suit it, what 2 don't, what will be my definition of it based on what I have from my envelope, and what might be my description. And then really easy to turn that into a jigsaw method. You might pick one student who's the captain of that team, who's maybe a very strong student, that they would be able to explain it to other groups. And then the others would move and they would gather information from the other groups or teams on what method they have. So you could do that with a printed maybe table on a sheet, or if you have the use of a device, you could have a document on a device that has all those headings. And as one captain stays, I suppose they're very comfortable with the method of training that they were given, and then the rest go around and gather the information on the others. When we revisited that lesson, they always say that the one they use now when they write, if they're asked to give one, is the one that they had initially. So I suppose from that, they're learning one really, really well by the time they leave, particularly the captain, because they might explain it 5 times, and the others then may remember how someone else explained it to them, and that might be the one that they use. One that I've got great enjoyment out of doing lately is to do with the role of the official, kind of gamesmanship, sportsmanship. So you're kind of looking at getting students to act and perform to like a script or a role play. So you may have different roles for the officials, and then each team will be given a script of how they're supposed to act. So one team may be very obliging to the ref, they may be very polite, they might abide specifically to the rules of that sport, and then the other team may push the boundaries, they may challenge, I suppose, the rules that are there, challenge the ref, be difficult to officiate. So only those 2 teams will know what role they've been given to, I suppose, act or portray during that maybe 10-minute game, and the officials have no idea what role play or what instructions they've been given. Obviously it becomes quite apparent if one team are very supportive of each other and then one team are argumentative the whole time. Sometimes the officials may not know how to deal with that. So what you can have in an envelope are maybe a bank of strategies that if an official wants to call a timeout, that they can come over to the bank of strategies that you have in an envelope and they can read through and see what one might be best to use in that situation, and then call in the whole group and discuss what was your role play, how did you have to act, how did the other team have to act, the officials, did you find it easy, was it hard, was it challenging, what strategy did you pick to try resolve that conflict, did it work, what might have worked better. It's a way to link theory to practice, and maybe at the start of a double practical or a single practical is if you have various different envelopes with different definitions and terms completely mixed up, very random in each envelope, and just like a running relay in the hall, maybe in groups of 4 or 5 at one end of the hall, you might have 5 teams of 5, and then you'll have an envelope right in front of each other team at the other end of the hall. And as one student runs down, they may be allowed to take 1 or 2 things from the envelope, depending on how much is in it, and bring it back to their team. And as they're gathering more from the envelope and bringing it back, they're starting to pair up their definitions. So maybe flexibility on one card with the definition of flexibility. And a nice way then to introduce what's new for that class or for that session is to put in maybe some of the new definitions or new terms that you'll be using in that double, so that it's very obvious to them, oh, we haven't done these ones yet, I wonder is this what we're going to be doing today, and allows for a small little bit of a discussion at the start. One final tip I'll give that has worked for the groups I've had lately is linking the learning outcomes and the content that has to be covered to what's going on at the moment in the sporting world. So when we came back before Christmas, we looked at a case study on Kate O'Connor, so the Irish heptathlete who medalled in the Worlds, and like there's so many things that we can link that to. So we looked at how she managed the injury she got on day 2, how she managed warm-ups because she's slightly different. She has 7 events that she has to warm up and cool down for. We looked at the psychology of those 7 events, scoring well in some, not scoring well in others, and having to come back and compete again. We looked at maybe the impact of sponsorship now that she had such a successful year. It also links to women in sport, and then rules and regulations of the events that she took part in.